Welcome to the Authentic Health Coaching Show. My name is Tom Corson-Knowles, founder of Authentic Health Coaching. We want to thank you so much for subscribing to the Authentic Health Coaching Show on iTunes. So we want to give you a free gift with Dr. Corson's top 5 nutrition tips. It is the #1 guide to taking your health to the next level, and you can get your gift at AuthenticHealthCoach.com. Now today on the show we have an incredible guest for you, Dr. Terry Wahls. And Dr. Wahls is a clinical professor of medicine at the University of Iowa, Carver College of Medicine in Iowa City, Iowa. And she's just an incredible person, and she actually had MS. She was diagnosed with MS in 2000, and she was, over years, of course, MS is a progressive disease and got much worse, and she was in a wheelchair, and she started studying nutrition and started studying the disease intensively, and found that with a change in her diet, she could actually improve her symptoms and reduce the severity of her symptoms. And about a year or less, she was actually out of her wheelchair and able to walk around the hospital and go biking. And it's just an incredible, inspiring story. And now she's devoted her whole life to doing research on how your diet can help you reverse diseases like MS and diabetes and cancer and other diseases. So today on the show, she shares some of the findings of her studies and what she feels to be one of the most important diets for reversing and preventing disease. So enjoy the show today. Terry, thank you so much for being with us today on the Authentic Health Coaching Show. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and your background?
So I'm an internal medicine doc, and I, in 2000, was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. By 2003, my disease was reclassified as secondary progressive MS, and I ended up with a tilt-recline wheelchair. I could walk short distances, had a lot of troubles with fatigue. I took the recommended chemotherapy, and still had continued decline. And when I got into the wheelchairs, when I went back to reading the medical literature, sort of night after night, trying to see what were the things that I could do. And gradually, I added some vitamins, some supplements that seemed to slow down the rapidity of my descent. But in the summer of 2007 was when I had the brilliant idea that this list of nutrients I was taking in pill form, I should redesign my diet to be sure that I was getting it through the food that I ate. And so I started that in November, December of 2007. Within 3 months, I was able to get up out of my tilt-recline wheelchair and walk using canes between exam rooms. At 5 months, I was able to walk throughout the hospital without a cane. And at 9 months, I was able to do an 18-mile bicycle ride. Now, and this is really based on the power of intensive nutrition.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's a most remarkable story. It certainly changed how I view disease and health. It changed how I practice medicine, and it changed the area of my clinical research.
Yeah. And do you think this was just like a spontaneous miracle? I mean, are you just someone who's really special, or is there something about what you changed with your diet that made all the difference?
Well, I think there's something about what I changed in my diet. And if I slip up, go off in the diet, I can tell I have more problems with pain and fatigue. They'll take about 3 weeks to clear. And this intervention that I use, which is very heavy on vegetables, berries, grass-fed meat, wild fish, this is what I use in my clinical practice in primary care and in my mental health clinics. And I see people have remarkable improvements as they learn how to eat.
That's amazing. So tell us about some of the work that you're doing then.
So I have a pilot study that we're testing the interventions that I used with my treatment for MS. And these interventions include the intensive nutrition, some targeted vitamins and supplements. We teach people how to meditate. We teach them how to do self-massage. We give them a personalized exercise program, and we give them an electrical therapy device and begin doing electrical stimulation. And we call them every week, give them a lot of coaching and support. And so that we follow them for the next 12 months to see what happens.
Mm.
We presented our preliminary data at the 2011 Neuroscience Conference, and that was actually given hot topic status because this is very small numbers. Obviously, it would need to be replicated, but the fact that we're able to show people having marked improvement in their fatigue and improvement in their walking ability was quite remarkable. See, usually with progressive MS, despite therapy, every year the person's a little worse off mentally and physically. So the fact that we're able to stabilize and then show improvement is quite remarkable.
Yeah, that really is amazing. So what is it specifically that you're changing about these people's diets?
So we put them on what we call the Wahls diet. That's the goal of 9 cups of vegetables and berries every day. So, yeah, and I prefer much of that to be raw if possible or lightly cooked. 3 cups of green leaves, 3 cups of sulfur-rich vegetables, things in the cabbage family, mushrooms, onion family, asparagus, and 3 cups of bright color. We have them go gluten-free, dairy-free. I recommend that they limit starchy vegetables or gluten-free grains to no more than 2 servings a week. And we push them to have some high-quality protein. I do encourage organic, grass-fed, wild, humanely produced food.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And so tell us more about, how we got in the situation that we're in America, because, so many people are suffering from MS now and other autoimmune disorders and heart disease and obesity.
So what we're seeing, and I'm going to back this up even further. So our species evolved, we think, over 2.5 million years. And if you look at the acquisition of grain and starchy vegetables into the diet, that would have been about 10,000 years ago. And then about 2,000 years ago, you started having some processed white flours, pastries, sugars, and 200 years ago, sugar and white flour use again spiked. 75 years ago, we began using processed vegetable oils, which would have been, waste products from industry before that. And 75, 50 years ago, we began using high fructose corn syrup. The result of all those changes is that we have a huge amount of calories without any nutritional benefit. That's a problem. We're much more likely to have developed a sensitivity to the proteins in wheat and dairy called gluten and casein. And all of this sugar, carbohydrate, starch in our bowels increases the growth of different kinds of bacterial species than we normally have, which in turn end up confusing our biology. The result is that we have more and more inflammation. We have more problems with hormonal imbalance. And we also have far more toxins in the environment from the industry and farming practices. We have genetically modified crops on top of that, which then consume a much higher rate of pesticides. So our population is starving for the building blocks we need to do the biology of life properly. Many of us are exposed to a lot of toxins that we're not excreting, getting rid of properly. The consequence is the molecules that would get made as part of life are being made improperly. Our blood vessels become stiff, our heart muscles weaken, our brains are less effective, we're more irritable, cranky. And so we develop things like high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, or in my case, multiple sclerosis. And I see it as a problem of I'm not getting the things I need to get, like the vitamins, minerals, nutrients. And I'm having a hard time getting rid of all the toxic stuff in my life I have to get rid of. That will tip us into chronic disease. And so we're seeing every generation more severe problems with diabetes, more severe problems with mental health issues, more severe problems with autoimmune problems. There's going to be no way that we can use drugs and procedures to get us well. That might control symptoms, but the only way to restore health is to deal with getting people everything they need, building blocks, so that's food, real food, fruits, vegetables, berries, and getting rid of the toxins in their life. So the bodies can excrete all those pesticides, heavy metals, plastics properly. If we don't do that, we will continue to have an explosion of healthcare costs, declining economy, and we'll just get into bigger and bigger and bigger trouble.
Absolutely, I agree. I think it's one of our biggest financial challenges in the United States that a lot of people aren't even paying attention to is that, in 2030, 30% of our our population is going to have diabetes alone, and that alone will bankrupt our country.
Yeah, we can't afford that.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is the government will never respond to address this. There's too much profit in keeping people eating this unhealthy food. Too much profit in thinking of health in terms of drugs and procedures. It's going to require the people in a grass-fed way, in a grass roots phenomena, learning that they control their health through the food they eat, the choices they make, and that we individually will have to make the change. It's not going to be the government making any changes. It's we ourselves that will have to learn how to live for health.
Absolutely, that's what I truly believe. It's our responsibility to take care of ourselves, and when we take care of ourselves, we help our family and our community and the whole country, because we're all in this together.
Plus, you feel great.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I pitched to many of my patients who chronically ill with a whole host of problems, and I can say, look, so you've done the traditional approach last 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever the problem is, and you're not doing very well. How about giving me a month-long experiment where you follow the Wahls diet, and at the end of the month, then you can sort of reflect back, and is it worth continuing the experiment or not? And I'm very pleased to say that I'm having more and more success with people from all types of problems, mental health and primary care problems, that are turning to food, that they're much more interested in learning what they can do to restore their health.
That's awesome. And so you're finding that your diet is helping people not just with MS, but with other conditions as well?
Oh, yeah. It's funny, my residents laugh. And they tell me, Dr. Wahls, it's the same diet for everyone. So, well, not quite, but, mostly it is. It's the same principles of getting green, sulfur color, high-quality protein, and getting rid of the wheat and dairy.
Yeah, we all have the same basic genetic material, the same species.
Yeah.
Regardless of what disease that we might have.
And most of our people have gotten this crazy idea that they can blame their genes as to why they're ill. Take no responsibility for their actions. And, that's unfortunate. Our genes, it's how all the genes, I have 20,000, that interact with the environment and the choices that I make that show up as my disease. And I can shift all my choices to health behaviors, health promoting, and watch myself grow younger, stronger, and more vital every year. And I'm pleased to see that it appears that many more of my patients are willing to consider that, and they're much more interested in options that don't include drugs. The medical students I talk to, the first-year students, they're very open to this. As the kids get further along in their training, they are more likely to get seduced by procedures, gadgets, and fancy drugs.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So, and that's, I think, what's become kind of the epidemic, so to speak, of American medicine is that we focus so much on the drugs and procedure and so little on prevention.
It's very sad. Understanding nutrition is not a priority for the medical schools. And I would also say, even when they are teaching nutrition, I would challenge the dogma on what's the best diet. We've been heavily influenced by the U.S. Dietary Guidelines, which is created by a committee that's appointed. And in this wonderful article, Saving U.S. Dietary Guidelines, examine the financial relationships for all of those players, and saw that over the last 20 years, the corporate food industry and agricultural industry has steadily had more influence on the food pyramid. Mm-hmm. So my position is the food pyramid's more about selling product. It's not developed with pure science in mind. Mm-hmm. In the countries where you can have no financial interest if you're on such committees, they have a diet that looks like much more like mine. Lots of vegetables, lots of berries, grass-fed meats. Mm-hmm. And they aren't pushing this enormous amount of grain on us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell us more about the grains and why are they a problem for us?
So grains, there are two big problems. Grains can have a protein called gluten, and this gluten protein, if it gets into my bloodstream, will stimulate my pleasure center in my brain, so I can become addicted to those yummy sticky buns that we all love. And it can generate a huge immune response from my white blood cells that thinks this gluten molecule is an invading germ. And so all of the inflammation and protective chemicals that we'd use to kill invading germs are being released in my bloodstream. And that increase in inflammation drives more obesity, diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune problems. 1 in 8 Americans has the genetic makeup that their body could react negatively to gluten. And typically, that's very hard to diagnose. People can have symptoms for years to decades before finally getting a diagnosis. It can be involving neurological problems, irritable bowel, arthritis, skin, asthma problems. And so because it can involve any organ of the body, and there's not a reliable blood test, it can be very challenging. What I tell folks is if they have a chronic disease, to go off gluten and dairy for a month and see how that works for them. The reason I include dairy with the gluten is that the amino acid sequence in the dairy protein called casein looks very similar to the gluten sequence. And so if you're reacting to gluten, you're almost always reacting to the milk protein as well. So that's problem number 1. You have an immune reaction that gets you into trouble. Problem number 2 is that this will feed the wrong bacteria, yeast and parasites in your bowels. That leads to problems with overgrowth of Candida yeast and species that will cause more inflammation, more problems with obesity, autoimmune type problems, mood problems. So the grains can cause an immune problem. They can cause overgrowth of Candida species, and they replace other more important foods like vegetables, berries from the diet.
Right, and I think that's probably one of the biggest problems that I believe is that when you're eating all of these processed foods and junk foods and carbohydrates all the time, is that one of the main problems is not only is it causing inflammation and all these other things, but you're not getting the things that you really need, the fruits, the vegetables, the berries.
Absolutely. You're starving yourself for the building blocks that you need for the biology of life.
Exactly. So, you talk a lot about the building blocks, and a lot of people think, well, I eat pretty good, and I take, a multivitamin or some kind of supplement. Why is that not good enough?
So, the vitamin and the supplements do have some nutrients that are very important for brain cell, mitochondria, and cellular function. Absolutely. However, we scientists are really not that smart. There are hundreds, there are thousands of other compounds. So we've yet to identify a name that are probably very helpful for optimal function of my mitochondria, my brain cells, and my cells. That's why I think, I had been taking a list of vitamins and supplements. I had slowed down the descent of my disease. I was very grateful. When I realized I should be focusing more on food, that's probably when I was getting these hundreds, thousands of other new compounds because I was eating so many vegetables and berries. That's when the magic happens. Junk, most of us know to not put sugar in our car's engine. That will destroy our engine that way. It's unfortunate that we can't see the same parallel for ourselves.
Exactly, and so many people are unconsciously or unknowingly basically poisoning themselves with the food that they're eating.
Oh, easily. Interesting study, I believe O'Keefe, looked at the intake data and went down the list of vitamins and minerals. And as I was looking at that, and I displayed it graphically, you can see that basically 90% of us are missing multiple key vitamins and minerals in our diet because we're eating so much junk food, so much processed food that's dead.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest problem that we have is that people just don't understand that they need the fruits, the vegetables, the basic building blocks. So tell us more about, the sugars, the high fructose corn syrup, and some of those problems that they can cause.
So the sugar, high fructose corn syrup, we see that increases the fat in the liver and can puts the person at greater probability of fatty damage to the liver and long-term health problems that way. It will push those calories into fat around your belly. That's called central obesity, and that fat is more health damaging. And again, it gives us a lovely buzz. We feel good. We like it. Most of us are addicted, and it's absolutely lowering our health.
Absolutely. And what about legumes? What do you think of them?
So, legumes, I have concerns over. The potential issue with legumes is that several. One, lectins, which can be basically a mild poison, so that could cause some negative health consequences. They can have more carbohydrates, more insulin load than what I would like. On the other hand, there certainly are studies that the whole grains and legumes have many health benefits, far better than the standard American diet. My team and I have been discussing that it'd be very interesting to compare a Paleolithic meat-eating version of my diet and a legumes vegetarian version of the diet in a head-to-head comparison, looking at some nutritional markers. And that's actually the study design that we're talking about. I'm meeting with my team, and we've been developing a protocol to propose. So I think that would be very, very interesting. I know there is some likewise compelling data on the paleo side with their health benefits, and some compelling data on the raw vegan side. But no one has compared the two in a head-to-head. We'll see if I can get funding to do just that.
That's awesome. I would love to see the results of that study.
Yeah, that would be very, very interesting.
Definitely. So just to kind of summarize what you're saying here is that you believe that the really important thing is to get the fruits, the vegetables, and the berries,
yes,
and to cut out the gluten and the dairy, and to get some natural grass-fed organic meat, basically.
Correct.
And then that the whole grains and the legumes are not as great for you as the fruits and vegetables and other things, but they can be okay in moderation as long as you're focusing on the other things.
So if you stay gluten-free, and I would limit that. So in our study, we limit that to no more than 2 servings a week.
Okay, so it's not 100% gluten-free then.
Well, no, you have to be 100% gluten-free. If you're going to have legumes and gluten-free grains, you get to have them, but no more than twice a week.
Ah, I see. Okay, gotcha.
And what we see is that people cheat on the diet. They often have more fatigue, more pain, and it'll take them a couple weeks to clear and get that back to baseline.
Gotcha. Well, it's kind of just the learning curve that you go through. Everyone, you can listen to an expert like yourself or any other kind of expert or read the studies, but until you really experience the results, you kind of don't know for sure.
Well, we're all human.
Yeah.
We all make iterative changes in our life and in a very testing, learning way. So yeah, I'm not surprised. We work with people to try and keep them as compliant as possible. It's certainly helpful that when people don't follow the diet, they typically have a lot more symptoms, so that makes compliance easier and easier.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing just a wealth of information with us, Terry. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about where people can find more information about you and the projects that you're working on?
Okay, so there are a couple things that you can do. You can go to my website, Terry Wahls, Terry, Wahls, WAHLS.com. You can also go to the WahllsFoundation.com. I've got a page on Facebook. You can also look for my book, Minding My Mitochondria, which is available on Amazon. And I've got a bunch of lectures in DVD and audio CDs that are likewise available. And, in all of that material, I talk about my experience. I teach how, I think using lay terms, make it easy to understand how our cells work, how our bodies work, what are the things you need, and where they are in the food chain. So it'll make it easy for you to design the kind of diet that will make a difference for you and for your family.
Well, that's awesome. I'm so excited about the work that you're doing, and I'm so proud of the work that you're doing because I know you're going to help just thousands and millions of people, turn around the epidemic of disease that we have going on. So thank you so much, Terry, for being with us today.
You're welcome.
Hey there, it's Tom Corson-Knowles again. Hope you enjoyed the show today. Remember to check out your free gift with Dr. Corson's Top 5 Nutrition Tips report at AuthenticHealthCoach.com. And wishing you an incredible day. Take care.